What's going on, guys? Welcome to another edition of Get Breaking Nation, where we give excellent assessment and reviews. And in this video, we definitely got to talk about the announcement that I seen on Facebook for confirmation of a Resident Evil 7. Now, we all knew that another Resident Evil was definitely coming, especially because it's such a big franchise and there is a demand for it. But one thing that I did read up on the Facebook post did state that it's supposedly supposed to be going back to its horror roots. That's the one thing that every fan that's actually loved this franchise from the start, or has gotten introduced to this to the franchise through maybe the first few games, really wanted from the franchise. Now, 4 did have horror in it, but it did introduce the action elements, but it did a great job of balancing it. 5's too much action. 6, a bit of horror, still too much action. So hopefully we'll see where 7 goes. Now, this video is just going to be me throwing out my general thoughts on it, because you know I just cannot keep my opinions to myself. So here we go. 1, characters. I do kind of want to see new characters. I do love the original characters and I do love the old characters, but there's only so much you can do with a whole world being, plagued by bioterrorism, where you can't keep having the same exact characters in every single game. Granted, they do change up the characters, but for the most part, it's still the bulk of those same characters. What Chris Redfield was on in a few games, Leon Kennedy was in a few games. You got, Ada was in a few games, Wesker was in a few games, you got Claire that was in a few games. It's time to bring in some new and fresh faces, and for the most part, the series does introduce a lot of pretty cool characters. Again, if you don't know, my favorite character, hands down, is Leon Kennedy, as far as the males go, but I like Shiva Alamar from Resident Evil 5 as my top female characters. Now, that's not to say that, Jill ain't a favorite, Claire ain't a favorite, Chris ain't a favorite. But those just characters that I wish that they actually kind of, just give them some space and allow the story to be taken to a new character. That way, it also, in my opinion, kind of helped the horror aspect, because if you have veterans in a franchise, it's kind of hard for them not to be action-packed because they're veterans of it. So if you introduce a new cast of characters, it would be more horror because it'd be a new experience, which is why the first 3 games were as successful as they were, because this was a new experience for these characters. But aside from that, and I also made a different video about how Hunk should have his own game, hands down. Even though he is a bit of a veteran or whatever, he never really has a prominent role in many of the games anyway. So why not just go ahead and get this man his own game? I think he deserves it, fairly enough. But as far as the characters, I think that's where we should probably take it. Just bring in some new fresh faces and everything. Setting, I would like to see a pretty interesting setting. Maybe should it be like part 6 where it's just like traveled? No, they should not do that. That was one of the worst things they did. It was cool that they did it with the story because it matched the story, but for each character to keep traveling all these different places instead of having these characters in different places and it actually happened, it took away from the experience. But as far as the setting, I would like to see a grand isolated setting. Resident Evil Revelations 2 was great with that because they were stuck on that island. Of course, you got Raccoon City. They had the mansion from the first one and the second and third games. You had the village area in part 4. I would like it to be kind of enclosed and be a bit isolated, and make it where you can travel within that isolated path, and of course have different places you could possibly go from there, but don't have it to where you're sitting here traveling across the world, which is one of the reasons part 5 kind of failed when it came to the environment, was the fact that you just kept traveling and it wasn't really more exploration. So as far as settings go, give us a big setting to where we can travel, but at the same time we can explore and it's actually worth being there. As far as stories go, I wouldn't mind it if they actually been doing what they've been doing and just sitting here making these new stories and putting it in between the games or in between the movies or between the comics or manga, whatever it is. I would kind of like to see a continuation of what happens after part 6 with a different character, possibly Jake, possibly Helena, possibly even Rebecca, or even keep going with Claire or what's that guy? Or Moira. Barry's daughter, the character that they don't have, they really don't introduce. They introduced in one entry but never brought them back. I would like for them to have their own story or whatever. So as far as stories go, I'm open to it. I want to see the standard. Okay, we have a village or whatever. We have this or whatever. Something gets unleashed. Somebody's trying to take advantage of it being released. So I wouldn't really mind it being taken far from that, because that's what kind of Resident Evil has always been. Somebody's been either, it's really two storylines. It's either somebody unleashing a virus and they're taking advantage of the virus being unleashed, or somebody releasing a virus and actually controlling the virus and trying to do something global with it. So, there is that. Gameplay, okay. Third person has been confirmed for it, or so it's said. I wouldn't mind the third person. That's what I like. I've gotten so used to it with the last few games. I think it works pretty well. Now, this is the thing where we want. This is where, and listen to fans. Don't listen to each other. Listen to your fans. No action, or a lot less action. Damn the quick time events, because Part 6 killed the hell out that. And just bring back horror. Give us limited ammo. Give us limited space. Give us limited weapons. No unlimited weapons. No unlimited ammo. None of this God mode crap. Keep the engine very spontaneous. Because every time I go through playing 5 and 6 and even 4, I know where the enemies are coming from. Even before it even happens. Keep it spontaneous. Again, horror based. Survival horror based. Meaning, give us some ammo very scarcely, very few of it. I like the system that they had in Revelations 1 and Revelations 2. Make it a bit more rarer. That actually makes the game harder. Some of the best and scariest moments in some of these games, or like in Resident Evil 4, for instance, when you first meet the Regenerators. It's a very frightening moment, as well as when you're in the sewers, you get to fight those bugs that turn invisible. That's a pretty frightening moment. Part 5 even touched on it, but did not capitalize on it, and that's the part with the liquors. It'd been nice to be able to get through this trap full of liquors and not being able to shoot at all, rather than sit there and get to the end and just have this big shooting party. If they'd extended to that would have been even better. Part 6 did a fantastic job introducing so many great concepts, but never capitalizing on it. When you're in the city, and the zombies are coming, make it to where you can't sit there and just run and gun all the zombies. Bring back that, be more choicey with your weapons. Should you run or should you fight? Make these each have consequences behind each action or inaction. Anyways, like one of the best horror parts in Part 6 was the part when you're in the subway. That part was so freaking awesome. It was one of the best parts of the game. Not only because of where it was established, but the way it was shot. Where you had that one instance where you're in the subway, and next thing you know, you see this light farther down the tunnel, and then you see these shadows run across. Like, that part was epic. Make this game horror based. Don't make just harder enemies. Make it to where every enemy is a potential threat. That's what we want to see. Make us actually challenge ourselves. Because as much as I love Revelations 2, which happens to be maybe my second favorite Resident Evil game of all time, it's still to the point where I know what enemies are. I got weapons. I can sit there and take them out any kind of way or anytime I want to. I want it to be a challenge. Do that. Don't just make harder enemies. Make it to where every zombie can be a threat. So anyways, those are just my thoughts. I'm happy to hear that Resident Evil 7 has been confirmed, and when E3 jumps off, they're going to sit there and possibly show us a trailer or some gameplay on it, because I am psyched. Resident Evil is definitely one of my all-time favorite series, and even though those other games did have their share of problems, I did like the stories. I like the characters. I love going through the motions with these characters and the stories and seeing these new creatures and everything. So even though I do have my tidbits about them, I still enjoyed the games. I still play them to this day. Anyways, guys, in the comment section below, let me know your thoughts on it. Should there even be a Resident Evil 7? And since there is going to be one to be confirmed, give me your thoughts on it, what they should do, what they should not do, what your expectations are, whether it's good or bad. And guys, to the next edition of Gear Breaking Nation. And remember, keep those gears turning.